Gretta Ziller, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thanks for having me.
I believe you grew up on a farm, a fairly remote farm. What kind of music were you listening to?
So I did grow up on a remote farm in a place called Tholagalong. My mum was a great lover of music, and we listened to all sorts of stuff growing up. Lots of jazz and blues and classical music and rock music. So I listened from everything from like Bessie Smith to Billie Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Pavarotti, Rage. Every Saturday, Saturday church was Rage. Lots of stuff.
So when did alt country music come into your life?
That sort of wasn't until I was in my final year of uni. I moved down here to Melbourne to do a Bachelor of Music in classical voice. I was studying to be an opera singer, and my sister went to agricultural school when she finished her high school, and she started listening to country music. And I remember the day, like I remember it like it was yesterday. She had the double of Garth Brooks double live, and I remember listening to that album and bawling the whole way through it. And I went, this is like, it still makes me emotional thinking about it. It was just that moment where the sound and the lyric clicked for me, and that was my path. I finished my degree and moved home and taught myself how to play guitar, and started trying to sing country music, and knew that it wasn't like straight country wasn't for me, and found my way to Americana so I could keep my rock and blues and jazz influences. And yeah, that's how it all began.
So the Bachelor of Music, has that come in handy at all in practical terms?
No. I mean, it's allowed me to be a solid singer, and you know, my vocal teacher was Joan Arnold, who in the classical circles is like a major vocalist back in her day, and so I was really lucky to have such an experienced vocal teacher. But you know, the history of music and how to read a score has not really been that helpful.
That's time.
Yeah.
You've got a new album coming out called All These Walls.
Yes.
Your third album?
Yeah, it is.
Over what period of time were these songs written?
So these songs were written over lockdowns. It was the 2 years of lockdown, really. Not that it is a lockdown-influenced album. It was just, I had plenty of time on my hands, so I wrote songs.
Is there a particular room or place where songwriting comes easier to you? I feel like I'm a bit of a bowerbird when it comes to songwriting. So I have certain spaces or certain things that I'm doing that song inspiration comes to me. Like it happened yesterday. I was in the shower. That's the most inconvenient place to have a spark of inspiration. It often happens in the shower or while I'm driving, or you know. But to actually sit down and write the song, I'm really lucky that I do have a sort of my own office / music dumping ground that I call my studio to write. Were there any lessons learned or mental notes while you were creating the previous albums that you took into this one? Yeah,
I think there's always lessons learned. Like Judas Tree is a fairly dark album, and I think it was, it was for a specific time in my life, and you know, it probably did alienate a percentage of my fans. So I really learnt that lesson to kind of be more aware of the diversity of sound in an album. And this one is much brighter. You know, I'm still really proud of Judas Tree, and I love the sounds of it. And but I think it was fairly dark.
What instruments did you play on this album?
I thankfully played none. I have an amazing live band, and I have an amazing recording band and group of people that come in and are session players. So I am just of the firm belief that why waste everyone's time with my guitar playing when you have
actual really talented guitarists. So I just, you know, take my hands off an instrument and say, go forth and be better than me.
What is your main guitar, and what's the story behind how you acquired it?
Yeah, my main instrument now is guitar. I got my first guitar from the cash converters on Elizabeth Street when I was doing my Bachelor of Music. I thought, oh, I'll just learn how to play guitar. It cost me $40 and I still have that guitar. Yeah, and I just taught myself how to play, and yeah, it's been a joy to learn to play guitar. Yeah.
I believe your launch show will be with the band.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about when and where that
is. My launch show is at George Lane in St Kilda on the 26th of August, so the day after the album's out. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've got my band plus a few ring-ins, so it's going to be exciting.
And then you go out on your own on a solo tour?
So I'm actually doing an album preview tour. So my tour starts on the 4th of August and will carry through to the big album launch. And then I was really fortunate to get a scholarship from the CMAA and Academy of Country Music to go to Nashville. So my album comes out, and then the next week I am in Nashville for a month. So there is no album post-release tour because poor me will be overseas.
So what does that trip entail?
So I'll be doing lots of songwriting and meeting people. I'm also going to Americana Fest, and I was really, really lucky to pick up an official showcase. So I'll be playing a couple of times while I'm there as well.
Fantastic. What does it mean to you as a performer to have a whole new album worth of songs to potentially add to your set list?
Yeah, it's awesome, to be honest. You know, I think creating anything is this funny mix of delight and fear, because you're delighted that you are able to share your heart with people, yet sharing your heart with people does come with the downside of it being rejected and criticised and or ignored. So yeah, it's this mix of emotion.
Why did All These Walls become the title track?
It became the title track because of lockdowns, really. I have been thinking of the response to this answer, knowing that I would get this kind of question. And the song itself is about the change in... sorry, let me get my words straight here. The song itself is about the change in cultural dynamic over the past few years. Like, in the perfect world, we would be like this. But it's also, like, the reflection on the past couple of years has been, we've gone from being, I'm just talking about Australia and being in a general, you know, sweeping statement. We've gone from being, let's help our friends and our mates that are struggling in flood and drought and fire, to being locked down and then suddenly having this mass influx of influence from another country. And that feels like it's changed our the way we interact with each other, not for the positive in general. There is more divide than ever. Everybody's put up their walls and it's my side and your side. So that's what the song is about. And I feel like All These Walls, for me, for the album title, is that in my person. I spent 2 years sort of getting rid of walls and building up ones that needed to be there with certain aspects of my life. And yeah, so that's a very long-winded way of answering that question.
Tell me about the album producers. I think there were a couple, and what they brought to the project.
Yeah, so Paul Rusk I've worked with all 3 albums. He's a beautiful man and a wonderful producer. I took my first single, Ain't Even Your Lover, to Oscar Dawson, who's a part of Holy Holy, and we finished writing that song, and he produced the demo track for it, and we pretty much took the demo and put more instruments on it. So he was the producer for that and co-writer. And Rob Munoz, who has been the guitarist for all of my albums as well. It's always really cool to have Rob's energy on an album because it's a little chaotic and it's wonderful.
Tell me about the album cover. Where was that shot?
So that was actually shot at Cactus Country, which is just an hour north of Shepparton. It's this amazing place that is just full of cactuses. I wanted a place that had a lot of space and a lot of character and kind of felt a bit dirty and dry, but also had this beautiful greenery. And Cactus Country was on my list of places to get a photo shoot.
Tell me about this single, St. Louis. What's it about? And have you ever been to St. Louis?
So St. Louis, the song, is actually about St. Louis Blues, the song, by W.C. Handy. As we talked before about my influences, I was really influenced growing up by a lot of jazz and blues singers, and one of the songs, my first song that I ever performed was St. Louis Blues. And so St. Louis, the song, is just an ode to that and a thank you to the songwriters and the singers and the performers of those my early influences.
Who have you got playing on that track?
Oh, there's a very long list of people playing on that track. Pretty much anyone that was involved in the album is on that track.
How important was the track order to you?
I think track order is hugely important. It feels like not like a dying art form, but it feels like it seems like it's a little less important, especially if you're only releasing singles and, the album is sort of just like the thing that comes out at the end of the release cycle. But for me, it's really important. I want to take people on a journey. I want them to feel the highs and the lows and tell a story with the track order if they listen to the whole album from front to finish. Yeah.
Is there a track on the album that's closer to your heart than others?
Yeah, there is. The last track. It's usually the last track of the album, or I found that the last track of each album has been the one that's the one for me. It's called Who Knows, and it's about the unknown of a relationship. Like, it's lovely, but I could be the one that breaks your heart, or you could be the one that breaks my heart. Who knows?
Tell me about Ain't Even Your Lover.
Ain't Even Your Lover was a song inspired by a moment that I had where I just got the giggles up. Everybody had their experience over the last, those 2 years, let's call them. And one of my things that I worked on and went through was sort of like emotional breakups with people. There were a number of people in my circle that I felt were really sort of just takers. They were sort of like vampires, emotional vampires, where they just took and I didn't receive really anything from them. And I was thinking about that after going through that heartbreak of recognising that, and then sort of like it was like an emotional breakup with someone. And then one day I was writing for Song Club, which I did while I was in lockdowns. And I had this thought, like, I literally got nothing from that relationship, not even a romantic moment. And I had a bit of a giggle, and that's where Ain't Even Your Lover came from.
Who are the artists that you look up to and think, I'd love to have a career like that?
Ooh. Lyle Lovett. He is the man. I just think he is wonderfully eccentric and is able to sustain a career and do whatever he wants to do and still be wonderful.
You toured with Ian Moss and Troy Cassar-Daley.
Yeah.
What do you learn from guys like that?
To not lose the joy
watching those two get on stage and just be guitar nerds was wonderful. Like they just were joyous. Yeah, it was wonderful.
You're touring August through to December.
Yes.
Have you got new merch for the tour?
Yes, I do. I love a good band tee. So I've got lots of t-shirts that are on pre-orders now, and some caps. So yes, lots of new merch.
And what's the plan for 2024?
2024, I want to be doing some collaborations with people. I'm doing lots of co-writing and getting out and touring with other artists.
Gretta Ziller, thank you for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.